This video was a long time coming, a lot of work. PTO winch install. Time I'm recording this clip, it's already been installed. Just want to give a big thank you to my friends Bam Bam and Big Tex. They helped me a lot with this, and Tactical Machinery, who I bought it from, then bothered a whole bunch afterwards for the little stuff that kind of got forgotten, and he was nice enough to follow up and still get me the little stuff that was forgotten with it. Most sellers wouldn't do stuff like that when you're buying surplus stuff. Highly recommend him. Some links to his YouTube channel he just started and his store on eBay in the description. Thank you to Michael Moffett as well. He made a two-part video doing a little overview of his install. He did this same project. Fortunately, I was kind of halfway done once I started watching his video, which is fine. But he also answered a bunch of questions on the side. I'll put links to his video as well in the description. And I couldn't do it without you. Nerd.
You're welcome.
Have the actual PTO and the pump and the hose laying out right here. Like it's been sitting for a while, the tank and the winch and some of the hoses. Got some printouts from the TM, bolts, stuff like that over here, some new gaskets. Big Tex is on hand. I have the other LMTV over here that I've been working on that has a PTO on it and winch that I'm going to be able to reference. Before we start undoing anything, getting underneath the truck here, that plate right here is where the PTO mounts. And behind that plate, I believe where these bolts are threaded in on the plate, those bolts get replaced with some studs. And then your PTO goes this way with the pump, and then the hoses get routed out. Really what's going to end up happening with this, going to kind of record everything. You'll watch it and fast forward. Just kind of give you our notes once we get it up there, if we get it up there. Big Tex, what do you think? How do you think it's going to go? All right, hopefully this goes well. Bam Bam's here now. All right, the plate is off. The PTO is actually up there. We started with having the pump attached to it with the hoses and fought with it for a while. Didn't work out. So now we took the pump off and we're able to get it up in there. And then while Big Tex held it in place, I was able to fit my scrawny arms in and hold the gasket in place and then get one of the bolts started, and we're bolting it up and going from there.
Oh gosh.
The enemy of South Texas sticker burrs. Here's what it looks like up in here so far. I stopped doing the time-lapse stuff because it was going to be hours of us just kind of figuring out what we were going to do. But we got the PTO, the pump, and the hoses installed. And I'm going to do my best to show what we got. You can see that little hose is running up and over the top. That's part of it. You can see one of the little blue bolts, and the red is the PTO. You can see the new pressure sensor and the fitting for the hose coming off there. Coming out of the transmission is the 90-degree hydraulic fitting. That's from that little hose you just saw from the top. This needs to be put in. When you put it in, oil is going to come out. Big Tex was able to do it quick enough and attach it to really keep a lot from leaking out. Right there in that pan was all that came out. Everything's closed up. We just got to put the shaft back. I'll put a little subtitle in with what the torque spec is on the bolts going in and the size for the actual PTO, and what the torque spec is for the 2 bolts holding the hydraulic pump on. And in the description, I put new pressure sensor that I showed you earlier in, and there's actually a little install kit and a new gasket and stuff. All the parts for anything that's involved in this is going to be in the description, either the part numbers or links if they're available. Gonna move forward with next these 2. I think they're called huck bolts, but whatever you call them, we got to cut these off, and this is where the bracket goes that holds the hydraulic tank, and then hang the hydraulic tank, hook up the hydraulic lines to that. What do you have to say about this? We have to remove the pump because the existing top bolt, the bolt comes from the inside of the frame going out, and you can't remove that bolt with the pump in the way. Got to remove the pump to get the bolt out, then should be able to access the nut with the pump in place. Okay, the other day we ran out of daylight and energy, but we did make quite a bit of progress. We got the hydraulic tank mostly hung. When we hung it, trying to see and line up the bolts, not fun, but we used a ratchet strap and kind of suspended it once we got it close. You had to fight, we had to bend, whatever you want to call this, a little venturi that comes off the exhaust for the air filter, because it was bent on my truck, to get that out of the way. Then you have to fight the battery cables back there to get those out of the way, and then trying to finagle your way in there to get the bolts into place. The ones on this side, we were having a hard time tightening it up, and that's when we just called it. So we're going to continue getting that bolted up. So to get at the last bolt, instead of torturing myself, took the hydraulic tank off, which I should have done earlier. I expected this strap to be like completely rusted and not able to come off, but it actually came off pretty easy. All right, I'm laying on the ground underneath the truck. There's the yoke where the front drive shaft coming out of the transmission would be. The hydraulic pump right there. PTO right there is installed. The hoses running to the tank are installed. The tank is hung and installed. And the 3 lines running back are installed, but the hangers aren't there. I was about to put the drive shaft in, but I figured this was going to be probably the best shot I could get. Didn't do a lot of recording because it got so dark you couldn't really see a damn thing, and the camera was going to be in the way. You can see the oil feed line in the fitting pretty good right now with the light on. You can see the new bolts from the install kit. That's the activation solenoid right there, 24 volt. You can see it says. I'm going to try to get the drive shaft put back in. I've had the truck actually parked out here for a week. It got really cold. That's the reason why it's been parked here. At this point, I am actually missing a couple of the brackets that hold the hydraulic lines heading towards the back. What I'm going to work on next is the fitting right here gets mounted up underneath the truck, and then these short lines run over to the solenoid valve that controls the forward and backwards operation. And one line from the pump goes to here, and then one line from the tank runs all the way to the solenoid valve. So here's the solenoid valve. I'm not going to go crazy cleaning it all up. I do have the hardware, and I'll just start doing that. Once it's hooked up, I'll kind of show you where the bolt holes and stuff are for that. Got the armor piece or whatever you want to call installed. The little brackets coming off of the cross member here is where that T-fitting bolts up to with its bracket. I had to bend it down a little bit in order for the helpers over there have their commentary going on too. Bend it up so that way the hydraulic hose would clear. You could see I did add one of the little holders that I did have. There's supposed to be like another one here, one on the transmission, and then got the, I guess you'd call it solenoid valve assembly, and all the hoses are pretty tight. I didn't get everything super tight. I'll need to tighten everything again, but they're also AN hydraulic fittings. They don't need to be Hercules tight. And these are the 4 holes over here that hold that. The next step now is I'll have to move the truck, but it's going to be mounting the actual winch. This thing is heavy. My Kubota barely picked this thing up when I took it out of the back of my truck, but I did have my pallet forks and stuff on. So I'm going to take the muffler off so that way we could get at the bolts and the holes easier and stuff in the back, and the heat shield and stuff like that is in the way. So it worked out pretty well, taking the strap and putting it right on my AI2 quick release for the my Kubota VX. Get it? All right, so I fucked up in my planning. Everything was going amazing, and somehow I failed to realize that you have to cut those two, whatever you want to call them, frame bolts to the cross member off to bolt on the front of the winch. Alright, well, it's on. Got it bolted up properly. It was quite the event getting those 2 frame bolts off over there. That was quite the setback, me overlooking the fact that you needed to cut those bolts. I can't believe I did that. It doesn't show those in the TM either, but TM isn't always accurate in its drawings. I didn't end up getting the muffler and everything put back together last night. I just spent time cleaning up. Turned out to be a decent day today. Hopefully getting the rest of the hydraulic lines, muffler, heat shield, all that stuff buttoned up, and then running all the electrical and wire harness up into the cab and getting the dash cluster here installed. So here's an unexpected issue I ran into. Just ran the part of the harness across the top of the transmission, finished cleaning up the connectors. Actual snap-in part of the connector is correct, but if you could see the little pins inside, you could see how they're like a hollow pin. And this is the harness. They also have like a hollow pin. It won't go together. I'm pretty sure one end or the other is supposed to be like a solid male pin. The piece that I bought that comes off the PTO is the proper part number. I think this is sort of one of those instances where over the years things just changed a little bit, or there's an inconsistency. So I had to unbolt those 8-bolt from underneath the cab to get at the wiring back here. I thought I was able to unbolt the face, but wrong about that. Needed to do it anyway to get at my phone mount, so it wasn't the end of the world. These 2 wire leads are what this control panel gauge cluster, whatever. They're going to be zip tied over here, at least on my truck, and they were coming behind this air fitting. I had to undo the 2 zip ties to make sure they were good, and then the ones, these black-ended ones, they're going to run through the hole that's over here, and that's actually what one of these is, what the lead going up to that we ran up from all the controls going to the PTO and stuff plugs into. Looking at kick panel here, you can see there's like a little slit here that pre-exists. Before you do any of that, you can kind of just poke through from the inside, or will be the outside of the cab engine bay, or here, just kind of slit that, and then take like a pry bar or a screwdriver and start working this, and it will pop out from here all the way over to there, and this will fold out away enough to fit this entire harness through. I did the best I could to consolidate the video down, but it got too long. Try not to make the videos run over 20 minutes, so I'm splitting it up into 2 parts, and the box should pop up right around this time for you to click on and continue watching to part 2, or save it for later to watch. Hope you keep watching.